Cassie Pose reference for that one?
I tried to get her to. She wouldn't kiss me.
She wouldn't kiss you.
My Guardian stuff will look much better than that.
All right, we are live. I'm Eli Glasner. Hello, thanks for tuning in. Can you tune in on Facebook? I don't know. Thanks for clicking. This is the Silver Snail Comic Shop in Toronto, and beside me today, bookending me, we have Chip Zdarsky and Marcus Toe, writer, comic artist, and we are going to be talking about the business of comic books, how comic books intersect with movies, and just what it is like to make these things that, yes, they still make and publish and put out, if we can take.
Why are you sounding incredulous?
Well, you know, I want to set the bar low and then rise. But let me start. I'm going to ask you both to introduce yourself, because I have like your list of credits here. But why should I talk about who you are when you can talk about yourselves? We're gonna build up to you, Chip. So Marcus, introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us where they might know your art from.
My name is Marcus Toe. I've been working in comic books for about 13 years now as a penciler inker. I've done books like Red Robin, Huntress, Batwing, Joyride, Nightwing, among many other things. Yeah, it's been.
Wait, let's get the Joyride.
We get the Joyride in there, co-creator of Joyride. And yeah, and right now my new project is all new Guardians of the Galaxy with Marvel, and the first issue that I'm going to be on the art team will be August 19th, I believe.
All right. Chip.
My name is Chip Zdarsky. I've been working in comics for about 2 months, and
It's quite the rise, though.
I'm 22 years old, and this is what the 2 months in comics has done. So,
it wasn't gray 2 months ago, was it?
No, it
Bald
was not.
and gray. There we go.
Yeah, very sad. I'm the co-creator and illustrator of Sex Criminals for Image Comics and Captara. I'm the writer on for Image with Kagan McLeod. I've written Howard the Duck, Jughead, Sex Criminals. Working on Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man.
It's new comic right there.
Yeah, and that's all I do in my life. Comics. You too, right? That's all you do.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, let's start there, because you were telling me just before we started rolling that essentially you draw so much that you've had to take other things out of your life. So what is like the daily life of a comic artist's life? Because I think there's a lot of fans out there, just people who might be interested, thinking, you know, either I could do that or it doesn't seem that arduous.
Well, I think most of it is that you really have to, or on my experience, you have to really love drawing. I mean, it takes a lot of time to draw a comic book. You have to know how to draw everything that you see in front of you, everything that you don't see in front of you, and everything that people want you to make up. And you have to do it on a very regular schedule and on a monthly basis to be successful. And it's just I enjoy doing it. I love sitting there and drawing, and it was the only path for me to take. Yeah.
I've often said that to be a comic artist, especially, you have to have short-term emotional memory.
Yeah.
You have to you have to like forget the horrible feeling of what it took to make the previous issue when you start a new issue. Because like whenever I'm done an issue of Sex Criminals, I'm like, oh my god, like that almost killed me. Like, I can never do that again. And then I get a script in, I read the script, I'm like, oh hey, this sounds fun. All right, I'll do this. Like the memory of it is gone. It's like love. It's like you have to be able to like forget about the heartbreak from your previous relationship in order to enter into a new relationship with a new issue of a comic book.
That is the best analogy, actually.
Thank you.
So, on that note, we have people who are viewing this, and we have some comments already. And this is from Nick Pierce, and this is what he has to say: Marvel and DC make it difficult, not impossible, for potential new readers to pick up their books, largely because the books are so mired in confusing, inaccessible continuity and endless crossover events that require reading other books. So, what do you say about that idea about dipping in? And you know, he's talking about crossover events. I mean, so if you haven't been in a comic book store in a while, you have stuff like this, Secret Empire, which they just made Captain America into a Nazi, and now there's like 20 or so issues of what's happening to him, and if you want to totally understand the issues and the story, you have to collect all those. So what do you say about that? Is that for the casual comic reader, he's saying he'd actually prefer to read something like your creator-owned books rather than trying to keep up with what's happening with these massive crossovers?
Well, I mean, I think that there are, the beautiful thing about comics right now, especially, I feel like there are so many options of stories to read. Secret Empire is tough to get into. I haven't even jumped on that one yet, but like there are, I remember when Falcon took over being Captain America, I thought that was a great time to jump on.
Yeah.
It was a story about Falcon, not really about Steve Rogers. That was a great opportunity for, you know, fans of different characters to jump on that point. There are points to jump on, but I think people seem to focus a lot on the crossovers, which, you know, probably isn't for everybody that don't really know what's going on right now.
So Chip, you're writing a new Spider-Man comic. First issue just came out recently. There it is, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. There are a lot of Spider books right now, Spider characters. I mean, how much do you need to know? How much do you have to worry about what's happening in the larger comic universe when you're writing a book like this?
Well, first of all, unlike Marcus, I read every single book that Marvel publishes.
Wow.
Because they're the greatest employer in the world, and they produce nothing but quality books, day in, day out, and I love them all. And that's just the way I feel about the product. But anyways, so I think ideally any comic should give you what you need to enjoy the comic. Whether it's a recap pages or entry-level points into stories like the Captain America, Sam Wilson stuff. So, especially with our book, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, issue 1, which is out right now, and issue 2, which will be out very shortly. The mandate of the book was to make it as new and returning reader friendly as possible.
Right.
So, as a writer, my job with that book is to you know, keep it simple. If there is some continuity involved, I'll explain it for people, because part of the beauty of comics, especially like the corporate comics, is the continuity, is the fact that like, oh, it's a whole world where people interact and like things change and twist around. So you don't want to exclude that completely, but you don't want to alienate readers with that as well. So we're trying really hard to make sure that our book is very new reader friendly. And I think any book I write for Marvel, like that's always kind of top of mind. Like I always talk to the editors about getting readers in, getting readers back, getting new readers.
But how much freedom do you have to do what you want with these characters? You introduce like a new character in the first issue. You're dealing with other characters that we know very well. Yeah. Can you decide to kill J. Jonah Jameson? Can you make Peter Parker? I'm just. Oh my God. There you go. You heard it here. But I mean, I wonder. I mean, when you're dealing with these massive companies and really important intellectual property, you have some crazy ideas. Is it like?
Well, they're always open to hearing the ideas. They might not necessarily go for all of them. Like even if you change a costume, it still has to be passed by higher ups within Marvel. They've given me plenty of freedom on the book within the confines of that new reader mandate. Yeah. It's the second book next to Amazing Spider-Man, which is kind of where the big seismic changes happen to the character. Right. But Marvel has told me repeatedly, like, you can have things happen in the book that alter the course of Spider-Man. I don't take that very lightly.
Yeah, I mean,
think if you're going to change a character like Spider-Man or a supporting cast, you have to think about it a lot. You have to run the ideas by people. There are things coming up that will be shocking and life-changing for both the reader and Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, and Marvel supports that because they want to maintain interest in the titles.
So Kurt Fortenberry says, Chip's take on Spectacular Spider-Man is awesome. So there you go. Kurt's a big fan. I want to mention, so we have pens and brushes and markers, and essentially we're taking requests. Well, you guys can start drawing something, whatever you want, or if you, out there in Facebook, YouTube land, if you have a suggestion for what you'd like to see, either Marcus or Chip.
Let's narrow it down. Let's narrow it down. I'm not
I figured we'd have to contain you, but...
I'm not drawing Galactus eating planets, fighting the Fantastic
No, okay,
Four.
something...
I'm doing like heads. I'll do a
head. Ahead of your favorite. Anyways, if you want to...
I'm off the clock.
Now, one of the big reasons for us here today is, frankly, the movies and what's happening right now with these massive blockbusters, I'm wondering how much of a difference does the success of a film such as Spider-Man, just ate up the competition over the weekend,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, which I thought was fantastic. What does that mean for you as a comic artist? Does that have an impact on your life?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the impact where I've actually seen is at conventions. I mean,
really?
Where you see more and more people coming to conventions because they see it from TV, or know that one of the actors in the movies are there, and it brings a lot of eyes to the work that we have done as a group. I'm not exactly 100% sure where it goes if we're talking about sales. I don't have those kind of numbers, but I mean, I'll be honest, speaking with my parents and my aunts, that's where I really notice when they actually know what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah, totally. I think the big thing is the movies have taken a lot from the comics, but now the comics take a lot from the movies. So you kind of have the back and forth between the two sides of Marvel now, which I think is good. It's healthy. Like I saw Spider-Man on the weekend, and when I came out of there, I was kind of rejuvenated. I'm like, oh, there's all these like weird little ideas in there that kind of like the first thing I did when I got home was I looked at like my plan for the next 20 issues, and I kind of like rearranged things and tweaked things kind of based on the movie, and not to capitalize on the movie, but because the movie did so many things really well. And I'm like, oh man, it kind of raises the bar for us. Like in a weird way, we're in competition with the movies.
Yeah.
You know, because like the movies so far that Marvel have been putting out at least have been stellar, and you want the comics to kind of be on that level, if not better than those movies, in order to inspire the movies.
But do you think the movies are inspired by the comics? Because when you look at the sales for comics, they are in the thousands, and you look at the ticket sales, and they are in the millions.
Well,
so,
first of all, yeah, I mean, but you're saying millions of dollars. But the comic industry itself is millions of dollars. Like, I mean, it's never going to be on the level of like a cinematic experience. There's marketing and interest in that kind of stuff that goes beyond almost any other industry, really, in pop culture. But yeah, I mean, comics do pretty well for what they are. Yeah, I mean, because like I like myself, I do creator-owned comics.
Right.
Such
as sex criminals.
Yeah, sex criminals, and like,
which
is
hilarious.
Our average readership, in the individual issues is around 20,000, maybe 15,000 on the low end.
So each month you're selling, a new issue comes out, you're selling somewhere between 20 to 50,000 issues. I'm just explaining for people who don't understand, in North America.
Yeah, but the trade itself has like increased the readership more because we sold 100,000 of those, and there's also digital on top of it. Like, I think comics as a whole, there's the numbers are healthy. So yeah, I'm not super concerned about the difference between the numbers for movies and the numbers for comics, because also to make a movie you need hundreds of people. Like, hey, I had to stay through those credits to watch the post-credits Spider-Man bit.
And also like hundreds of millions of dollars to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So.
Comics, like, realistically, you just need like one person.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I love about it, in that it's a smaller industry, but it's this incubator for ideas.
Yeah.
And then you see where those ideas go. I don't want to ignore the people watching and commenting. So first of all, we have a request. Janice would like someone to draw Venom. Does anybody want to take? Oh, okay. This should be easy. Get out the black ink. Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Now, Mandy asks, and I'll ask you, because you work for DC sometimes.
Yep.
Do you see a future movie for any other DC female superheroes? Because there's been so few, not only like really popular female characters, but then major female superheroes on the big screen.
I think there's more and more. Like, the Wonder Woman movie has shown us, obviously, that there is a huge appetite for, any kind of hero, of any kind, of any sex, and orientation. And I think, studios are starting to catch up and get wise. I mean, there are tons and tons of, if we even just talk about DC, just lots of female heroes that have been ignored in the past, like Huntress. I know Batgirl is one of the movies that are being talked about doing. Supergirl has a very successful TV show. I mean, we're just seeing the beginnings of all this, and I believe that it's really only the start. I mean, people are catching up, but movies are getting made, and it's taking a few years to catch up. But I'm excited to see what happens out of all of the excitement over a movie like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I was going to say one of my favorite superhero franchises that has like an extremely diverse cast are the Fast and the Furious movies, which essentially are superhero movies at this point, and they make tons of money. Like I think studios. There aren't altruistic studios. Nobody's being like, you know what, we need to do this for the community. Like, they're just not. Like, you want them to, I want them to, but it always comes down to money. And so, Wonder Woman doing really well, I think is going to help a lot. Black Panther looks amazing. That's going to help. And yeah, so the problem always is, if one of those movies doesn't do well, they're like, well, we don't have any more movies featuring women as main characters, and that, and that's insane because men, we're allowed to fail all the time, and I do.
There's a question from Jonathan who says, and I'm not quite sure about this, I'm going to just read it. Are there going to be more stories drawn by Goran Parlov?
Oh, yeah.
Who's that?
The backup in the Spider-Man issue 1 was drawn by Goran Parlov, who is awesome. He's like my favorite artist, and I know the editors at Marvel have been talking to him about doing some more stuff with Spider-Man. So yeah, we'll see, because like Adam and I want to have like a long kind of unbroken run. Like it's pretty rare in comics to have the same writer and artist like for a long time. Like what's your longest stretch on a book, Marcus?
19 issues.
19.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like
that was my
rare.
first.
Which was that Nightwing?
It was Red Robin.
Okay, so do you get tired of drawing a character with like, oh my, I can't draw that mask anymore?
No. I know a lot of people do. I tend to not, because honestly, it's just there's always something in any comic book that in my opinion kind of makes it interesting and new, especially with superheroes. You have different villains, you have different settings, you have a lot of things, and you can always play around with your style after a certain after a run that long. I think usually you can play around with different ways of doing the book.
All right, so we have
I was gonna say for myself, I'm already tired drawing Venom.
Exactly.
I'm like halfway through this drawing.
But it's a fantastic tongue, people. Let me tell you. Just wait. So we have another drawing request. Mandy would like a drawing of Harley Quinn. Do you want to jump on that, Grenade?
Sure.
Okay, so he's gonna try that. Interesting question that I think gets back to the diversity issue that we were talking about. This is from Christopher Small, who says, is it the conservative mindset of Hollywood that ultimately is what sets the glacial pace of exploring new and more complex characters? So, I mean, I guess what he's...
Complex, okay.
I mean, part of that is that we're seeing an incredible explosion right now of diversity in the comics. The movies, we're making progress, but it's not quite there.
Now, the question seems weird. Like, is he talking about complex characters or diverse characters?
Well, conservative mindset of Hollywood that sets the glacial pace of exploring new and more complex characters. So he's...
Yeah, because like I think the question is more about the regurgitating of characters. Like, obviously this is like Spider-Man's 7th movie.
Well, and these movies are $250 million properties, and so I think what he's saying, conservative, is not politically, but in terms of risk adverse, right? Yeah. And that's the great. I mean, you can talk about, you can have a crazy idea and try that in a comic, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but you do the next issue. Whereas to take a flyer on Spider-Man and really go out there.
Well, we're getting into a period where, 20, 30 years ago, the technology and the effects weren't quite there to realize whatever you wanted on the screen, and now they are. So I think the next step is going to be being able to do heavy effects movies, which superhero stuff is pretty much always that. And have them done cheaply. Right. Like I think in the next 20 years, you're going to have a lot of like young filmmakers who are going to be able to take risks and
bring that independent spirit to like the superhero realm, basically. There's a Quentin Tarantino out there that's a young man or woman that has that idea and now has the technology to bring those ideas to life.
Yeah, exactly. So the conservatism in Hollywood. it's because of like size of budget, so they want to tap into stuff that already has an audience, or the potential audience. It seems a bit more ready in front of them.
So their risk of money isn't as high because they know that they'll at least make a certain amount. I actually think TV right now is the one pushing the glacier, I guess, if you want to use, because nowadays TV there's so many options for television, and the way they do it and the characters and the stories they're being told, it's incredible. I think Hollywood is not there anymore as TV.
I've heard it's the new golden age of television. I don't know if anyone has coined that phrase.
A question for both of you, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but obviously there's a lot of people interested that are watching. Advice for creators trying to break into the comic biz.
Don't. Don't. Love your family, love your friends, have a life. Just trust me.
Okay.
It does take a lot. It does take a lot because, I mean, first of all, you're putting a lot of yourself out there, and that's very difficult just in general. You have to be okay with all the failures along with the successes, because with all the ups and downs, as long as you love the craft that you're doing, you'll enjoy yourself. But if you don't actually love doing the work, then it's
when you first started to put together a portfolio, but you hadn't actually been paid for your work, how long did it take you to make that breakthrough?
I was one of the lucky ones. I broke in when I was 19.
Wow.
And it was a smaller company. I worked for a smaller company because they were willing to take more chances. I was also Aspen Comics.
Okay. Yeah.
And also on top of that, I invested in myself. I went to conventions with the sole purpose of meeting editors, other artists, to get advice on my portfolios. I didn't table at a convention until I was a professional. All these things I did under my own, like I saved up just to go to conventions to get myself looked at. That's all I did.
I was going to say with what Marcus was saying earlier about like you have to love the act of making comics. That's so true, because like most of the people that bring up portfolios at shows, they don't want to be comic book artists, or they want to be comic book artists, they just don't want to create comic book art.
Right.
Like they have an idea in their head, like, well, I've drawn Spider-Man drawings since I was a kid, so clearly that's what I want to do. But there's a difference between doing pin-ups and the same drawing over and over again, or doing one amazing drawing over like a week and doing the job, which is creating comics day in, day out. It's incredibly hard.
What is the hard part that you don't think people out there realize once they've got the pin-up of Batman nailed?
Sitting there and doing it.
Yeah?
There and doing it. Like my day consists of 8 to 10 hours if I'm lucky, if I can scrounge up that time together, with nothing but sitting at a desk. I mean, there's a glamour to comic books to a certain degree, because what people see visually is that we're drawing Venom, something fun. But how many times have we drawn stuff that we don't even like, but we just do it because it's the job?
Yeah, the thing with comic book, in terms of art anyways, like before I did comics, I was an illustrator, and I did tons of different things. Like I was an animation background painter. I did like architectural renderings, portraiture, fashion stuff. Like comics is everything. It's taking every kind of art discipline and putting it into one, because you have to be able to draw cars, buildings, anatomy, fashion. You have to be able to tell the story, which means you have to be kind of a cinematographer on top of that. And you have to do like a page of that a day. Yeah. Like that's crazy. Like an illustrator, if they do an illustration a day, great.
Yeah, you're like.
But comic artist has to do like 7 illustrations a day.
We have another question for you, Chip, and it says, let me go back here. Chip, have you made it into the brain trust for Marvel Cinematic Universe, or does BMB and Dan Slott keep you on the sidelines?
Wow.
I think you're going to have to explain that one for us.
Yeah, sounds like a bit of code. Well, B&B is Brian and Michael Bendis.
Okay.
Who is, arguably Marvel's top writer for the past 10 years. He's the guy that, he knows how to tell a story. The Spider-Man movie this weekend was based so much on his stuff. And he's also a fantastic guy. And Dan Slott, he writes Amazing Spider-Man, which is the main kind of Spider-Man title. He's been doing that for, I think, 10 years as well. And he's amazing and super nice. So I think the question First of all, the question insinuates that both Brian and Dan somehow work on the movies, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think Brian's probably helped out on a few of the movies, but the movies are a very separate thing from the comics.
But do some of the movie producers, do they consult writers such as yourself or other comic writers for ideas, or is there a place where the two worlds merge, basically?
I think more in the beginning, like when it was a completely new thing, like before the first Iron Man movie came out, like Marvel funded that. Like Marvel basically became a film company in order to do that movie, and so they tapped into the people they knew, which were Marvel comic people. The movie stuff has gotten so big, and you know, they're owned by Disney now. It's like a whole new thing that I don't think they even. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe literally every other Marvel creator is helping out in the movies except for me.
They're just not calling you yet. I'm sorry.
But I think the important thing is to develop the comics.
Yeah.
And I think they realize that as well. Like, you know, Brian Michael Bendis is great at creating comics and creating comics that inspire other properties and movies. Like, his stuff's been in animation as well. He's had his own show with Power. So I prefer to see Brian just doing the comics, because people will look to those and you know, do the stupid amount of hours to turn it into a movie or whatever. You can just sit back and write another comic script.
Now, Marcus, we have a question about digital comic making. You mentioned that you're more digital now, although that Harlequin is amazing that you're working on. Do you want to show a little work in progress? Can we show how it's coming along? Look at that. Come on now. So this is the question. This is from Mark, and thank you, Jason, for that question that Chip just addressed. Mark asks, how has digital comics affected the industry? So both the creation but also the sales, because now we are in Silver Snail, which is a great place to buy comics in Toronto, but you don't have to come here if you want to, although it's lovely. You can buy them online for your iPad or whatever. So what would you say to that?
Well, I mean, I just like the idea that there's just different avenues where I can get my fix. I mean, the idea of brick and mortar stores all across now are changing, right? Because with the advent of different platforms where you can either buy or read or just consume whatever it is you like consuming, it is a changed landscape. I think it's great. I think the more we can get our stuff out there and in the hands of people that maybe don't have a chance to go to a comic book store. I grew up in a small town, a small city, I guess, called Red Deer, and we had one. When I grew up, we had one little used bookstore that sold comics, and not everyone can go there. You know, if I had digital comics as a kid, I would have been able to read a lot more. So.
And you were telling me that you work more as a digital artist now. I mean, doing some beautiful illustrations today, but I've seen your colleague Francis Manipul, who works on Trinity, does Batman, Superman, and he streams sometimes his art on Instagram, and it's amazing with the light pen. Do you work digital at all?
Yeah. All Sex Criminals is entirely digital.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? Why not? Why? I mean, let's see what you guys are doing here.
It's speed.
Yeah?
Yeah, because it cuts out a lot of steps in the process. Like, originally when I would do comics traditionally, I would pencil them on letter paper, scan that in, blow it up, turn it into like a blue pencil, do the lettering on top of that, print that out. I would ink on that, scan it in pieces, composite it. Like, that's for each page, and then finally color it. And so with digital, I can basically just start drawing. So it saves tons of money.
No shipping of pages, no FedExing stuff. I've gotten pages destroyed through shipping. There's a lot of things, and like you said, time is the biggest factor. You know, we only have so much time to draw these books. Whatever amount of hours you can save, even just scanning, saves you a night's sleep, maybe.
We have another question for Chip, and this is from Enrique. What are your thoughts on big crossovers and how they're affecting Marvel and their sales? Because many titles go through dumb story arcs because of crossovers, and many get canceled because of crossovers. Also, any spoilers on Marvel Legacy? Okay.
I am so out of it that I didn't even know what it was until it was announced.
Just say you read everything.
No, but like I don't read rumor sites or anything like that. So like they announced Marvel Legacy, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. All right. But like I get very little information from Marvel. I think crossovers are exciting. They're a part of the industry, and they have been since I was a teenager.
Yeah, Secret Wars, y'all.
Yeah, and like.
And Crisis.
And there's the downside to them. And you know, I was really lucky because when I started at Marvel, the book I was doing was Howard the Duck.
Mm-hmm.
And when there was a crossover coming up, I think it was Secret Wars, the 2015 version, my editor basically said to me, like, okay, we can be part of this crossover, and it'll increase the sales.
Yeah.
You'll get a bump, for sure. But if it affects your story negatively, then we can not do the crossover.
Yeah.
And so I chose to not do the crossover at that point. And you know, I think every editor is different, and every book is different in terms of whether or not they make sense within the crossover.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like the idea of forcing stories to go on hold or to turn a certain way in order to work within a crossover. So I think stuff like that is unfortunate. I understand why, because the bumps do help. Like there's the phrase in comics, standard attrition, which is most comics, they debut big at #1, then they go down. They go down every issue, and it's very hard to like increase the numbers on something like that. And one of the ways, there's two ways.
Put Wolverine on the cover.
Yeah, maybe that used to be the case when I was a rarity. Well, there's a few ways. One, relaunch, new #1.
Right. Yeah.
That'll do it. Be part of a crossover.
Yeah.
Or do something major within the book itself.
How serious is the competition between DC and Marvel? Because you now have these two companies. Marvel is connected to DC. Marvel's connected to Disney.
Yeah.
DC is connected to Warner Brothers. And you know, I read about artists going to one company or the other, and it's like hockey. It's like the trades. He's now exclusive with this side. She's now exclusive with that side. So how serious is this?
It's weird because like since it's CBC, I can talk Canada for a second. I used to work at the National Post.
Yeah.
For about 13 years I worked there, and it was, you know, closer towards when they started. And so there was like this rivalry between the Post and the Globe.
Sure.
And they, you know, people in charge would get super upset when people would defect one way or the other. Like that was like a grievance. Like if you went to quit, and I've seen people, they'd walk into the office of the editor at the Post and go, I'm quitting. You know, I got a job in advertising. They'd be like, okay, bye. If they said I'm getting a job at the Globe, they're like, we'll make a counteroffer right now.
Wow.
Like it was that kind of feeling. I have a sense that like Marvel and DC have always kind of been like that. But once you are out of like the kind of upper workings of a company like that, we're interchangeable. Like we all move over. Like my editor in Howard the Duck used to be a DC editor. I moved over to Marvel. So everyone hangs out. We all party together. We all talk. Like it's not a big thing. Even still, like I think in those upper echelons, like higher up editors, even they still talk to each other. Even they still hang out. But I think they have to kind of make the appearance that like, oh no, like we don't want to lose ground to the other people.
Yeah. So you're not on any kind of exclusive contract, Marcus?
No. It's kind of funny because I mean I've been jumping back and forth my entire career pretty much. I mean I'm mostly a DC guy.
Yeah.
Most of my work comes from DC, but yeah, I mean I think of myself as like a hired gun. I'm just a mercenary.
Yeah.
Just whatever job you need to get done, I'll do it for you.
He'll murder people for money. Like he literally means that. He's a hired gun.
Let's show our art, because you both have stopped now.
He's
more.
Like a real artist. So.
Okay, we'll start with Venom. Let's show Zdarsky.
That's Venom saying I'm getting my own movie, which he is.
He is.
Starring Tom Hardy.
I know. I'm actually excited about that. There you go. Okay, very nice.
How about that?
Oh, there you go.
No problem.
And let's see our
Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn. Very nice.
Traditional costume though.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I would have gone traditional.
And you're the one that brought all the tools, and he was just like.
Yeah, he whips it off, no problem.
Interesting question we have from Ryle, and he asks, who is the best up-and-coming comic writer? Either of you? Some of your favorite?
Chip Zdarsky.
Okay. Now we have to.
Ooh, a writer. That's an interesting one. I'm gonna have to think about that. Marcus, you go. Besides Zdarsky.
What are some books that you're reading right now?
Not a whole lot, to be honest.
Because you have to draw so much.
Because I have to draw so much. I feel very guilty about a lot of that, but I've actually been reading a lot of older stuff. Like I'm rereading a lot of the Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, X-Men, and Ditko Spider-Man stuff. I've been in a zone of reading older stuff to kind of get inspired again, and kind of, I don't know. Every once in a while, as an artist, you just kind of find certain zones of jumping into different areas of your own industry, and just trying to find something new, something that brings back that love for the characters that you want, or do you really want to succeed. So that's where I'm at right now. So I feel bad about not reading any of the new stuff, except for Chip's stuff, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, stop it. I have thought of some names, but I'm also forgetting some names, so I'm going to say no names.
Okay.
Because if I leave anyone out, I will say this is not a new writer, and it also is not a Marvel book, but I just read the Batman Elmer Fudd book. Did you read that?
No.
You have it there?
I have. I brought it because it's such a stunning example of something that could only work in comics. I'm going to take it out of the bag so that it doesn't shine too much. So this is, I'm told that right now DC is doing this bizarre crossover where characters from the Bugs Bunny cartoons are showing up in DC comic books. So there's a Martian Manhunter book, but this is a book where, if you don't mind holding the mic for a sec, I'll where an Elmer Fudd character basically goes on a killing spree and confronts Batman. Why don't you tell us about this book?
So, sounded like a horrible idea. I'm going to say that right up front. Like, when they announced it, I was just like, that is the stupidest idea. What is DC doing? Thank God I'm with Marvel. And then people started telling me about this book, and I picked it up, and it's Tom King writing it and Lee Weeks drawing it. And Lee Weeks is an amazing artist who doesn't get the recognition he deserves. He's so good. And it's a noir story. It's like they've treated the material as if it's like this like film noir style tale, where they've reverse anthropomorphized.
Yeah, here's the Bugs Bunny character Bugs saying, "What's up, Doc?" as he's confronted. He's got a bit of the bucktooth thing going on.
Is it reverse anthropomorphized? Like, what's the reverse of that?
They're humanized.
Yeah. And they play it out super straight, even though it's like Elmer Fudd talking like Elmer Fudd and Bugs and Taz beating up people in the background, and it's so fun. It's so funny and well done. Like to do it straight, like it's a brilliant idea to treat the material that way instead of like Space Jamming it up or Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
So that's an inspired treatment.
Yeah.
When you took on Spider-Man, Peter Parker, there have been a lot of spider stories. How do you even approach that? Is it just someone that you know this character because you're a comic fan, so you're ready, or was there something you did to kind of fill up your brain with new Peter material?
Yeah, I mean, I've read so many Spider-Man comics over my lifetime, but I still felt like I needed to revisit the series, other series featuring Spider-Man. Because it is tricky, because he's done everything. He's been through everything. His supporting characters have all died, come back, become villains. Like, it is hard to come up with something new. So, in a lot of ways, I'm trying to just put new twists on kind of classic Spider-Man tropes and stories.
Yeah.
And just kind of hope that the voice of myself and Adam just kind of like elevate it to a level that people enjoy.
Are you nervous when you sit down to put words into Peter's... I mean, you've written a number of Marvel books now, so maybe you've gotten over that, but still, it's kind of something special to be writing an iconic character like that.
Yeah, this is the one book that I was most intimidated by, and a lot of it is because he's been around for so long, in so many titles, and there's so many variations of the character. Everybody has their own favorite Spider-Man growing up, like whether you're into the 80s stuff, 90s, 2000s, movies, animation, and so I knew I wouldn't be able to please everyone. It's the kind of job where you go into it knowing that on some level you're going to fail some people, and your hope is that the balance is there where enough people get the take, enjoy the take, and come back to the book.
So we have a couple more comments. Janice, who asked for the drawing of Venom, was asking if you could mail it to her son, and then we saw that we gave it away, and she typed no, but that's okay.
You know what? Second Venom coming right up.
Oh, Janice, you're too kind. That's very nice of you.
I think I've got
She's
it now.
got it
That
down.
previous one was
It's going to become a Venom.
That was garbage.
So I'll ask you this, Marcus. Any writers you haven't worked with yet that you'd like to work with? It's your wish list right
Dan
now.
Slott, Brian Michael Bendis. Actually, I've known Chip for a number of years. It'd be great to work with him. I've since moving to Toronto, I've been so lucky to meet so many great creators. Jeff Lemire, a local guy, Chip as well. You know, and over in Vancouver, where my family's at, you know, we have Curtis Weeb and Ed Brisson. I'd love to work with.
So a very strong Canadian comic scene.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like, there's so many great Canadian creators, and we all know each other, which is great. And I almost feel like there's not enough time to work with everybody. So.
Yeah, it's trickier for artists. Like writers, we are like the sluts of the comic world. Like I can write 3-4 books a month, you know, for 4 different artists.
Spread it around.
But an artist, like you gotta it's like you can only get pregnant once over 9 months, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas I can impregnate a lot of.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's not the best analogy.
I'm gonna move away from that metaphor now.
But it makes a lot of sense, actually. I mean, us as artists, really, and it's even pretty rare to have one artist. It takes 4 to 5 weeks for a typical monthly artist to do a book, like one book.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes that long, and some people can't even do that. So.
Okay, I have a new request for you. Mark L is requesting a Deadpool drawing. So do you feel up to that, Marcus?
Deadpool? Why am I doing Venom again?
Because you're being nice to Janice. Are either of you going to San Diego Comic-Con?
I am not. I've gone in years past, but it's so far away. It's so crowded, and it doesn't feel like it's not my favorite comic convention, really.
This is a question from Jan, and I guess it's interesting in that this is what started as a comic convention has become this like pop culture mecca. Is there pressure to go there? Like, I mean, I guess you sit at a table and you show your wares. Yeah. Ideally, what do you get out of the experience? You used to go, or well, you've always kind of done your own guerrilla operations.
Kind of, but like I'd go to San Diego like maybe 10 years ago when I was just kind of starting out and having fun. It was great to party, meet people.
Yeah.
Like I had a great time. Now that I'm older and weaker and I cannot party in the evenings like I used to, it's like any other convention except it's farther away and it's longer.
Yeah.
Like when they in years past when they've invited me out and brought me out, like it's been great. If it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't go because it's a huge investment. Oh, is it out of ink? All right. You killed it. You killed my pen.
Will you be going to San Diego?
I will, actually.
So why do you decide to go? Why does that make sense for you?
I'm still young enough to party and.
Well, there you go.
Well, actually, it's true. It's very difficult though to table at San Diego. There's a lot of aspects to it that makes it difficult. So I'm not going to be tabling.
Explain what that means for people who don't understand.
So tabling for artist writer usually means we get a table at Artist Alley, and Artist Alley is an area where usually you can get sketches, commissions, get autographs, and buy stuff directly from the artists and the writers. San Diego has quite a bit of a smaller Artist Alley than most shows, and it is grandfathered in. You only get it when you get put on a list or something, right? I heard.
I don't know. Yeah.
I heard that, and someone has to give up their spot for you to get one. So
Celery Jones asks, what is your favorite convention to attend, if you do have a favorite convention to attend?
Mine was Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle. It's a very good, big show. It's still pop culture, but it has a giant artist alley usually, and it's very artist focused.
Mine, my default answer is Zdarsky, which is my own one-man convention.
And we got a question from T-Dub Boyd, who says, when is the next ZarCon, and will you be wearing the spider robe?
Okay, well, first of all, let me, there's a few things here. One, my legitimate favorite convention is probably Heroes Con, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
One, Southern Food.
Nice.
Awesome. But also it's a comic show. Like, there's no, not to demean my friends who are 1970s sci-fi stars, but there's none of that. Like, it's strictly comics. People that go there are fans of the books and art. So that's probably my favorite show. Zdarsky is my one-man show that I sometimes put on. Usually every 2 years I'll do it.
Okay.
The first year was just me on a platform in front of a fan expo, which happens in the fall, and a friend pulled me on the trolley as I signed books with like a little magazine rack and a little table, and that was a lot of fun. Got heat stroke. Wasn't the best outcome. And last year I rented a hotel room near Fan Expo and just invited people up to the room and just hang out while I was in my robe. The beauty of Zdarsky is nobody knows about Zdarsky until the morning of Zdarsky, so I can't really, I can't spoil it.
It's like Fight Club.
Well, if I was gonna have one, Marcus,
Yes.
would you like to go to Zdarsky?
Yeah, in a hot second.
Alright.
We have a question from Duke Jaywalker. We touched upon this before, but maybe we can expand. How much creative freedom can you exercise when working with pre-established characters? So, for example, you're starting off now on Guardians of the Galaxy. We know the raccoon and Star-Lord from the movie. So, how much leeway do you have when you're approaching when you get that script?
As an artist, honestly, I feel like I'm really lucky. If they've hired me to do the book, you know, they like my style, they like what I do, and I just do what I do. As an artist, I feel it's very liberating because I'm a fan of these characters, so I think I treat it very seriously as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my favorite iterations of these characters is what I'll try to put onto the page. You know, I got into this industry because I was a big fanboy, so I love doing it. My style is pretty. My style for comic books is pretty universal, I'd say. So I've never really had a problem with it. I've always been allowed to do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah. And Chip, how much freedom do you think you have?
It depends on the character.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times you instinctually know the kind of boundaries. Like I was brought in to help reboot Jughead.
Right.
And I would make some changes here and there and stuff, but like you kind of keep the core of the character.
Do they have like a Bible? Like, do they say, okay, here are the building blocks, and then you vamp from there, or?
No, that would insinuate that these companies are organized in such a way
Oh,
that
really?
they would have,
They're just like, it's Jughead, he's got a crown, go.
like they have like design models for artists for the most part, but in terms of story, like there's thousands and thousands of comics, like especially when it comes to a character like Spider-Man. So you know, they can kind of suggest where they want you to take the character, and if you agree or disagree, you can push back on it. But yeah, Jughead was relatively easy. They let me do what I wanted. Star-Lord, I had to work alongside Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic.
Right.
So I had to make sure I wasn't deviating from where they had the character. So there's weird artificial kind of like boundaries based on other titles around you, but not as much from editorial.
How many days or hours does it take you to churn out like a comic script, one issue?
Churn out.
Craft.
Okay, well, Sex Criminals, because I'm coloring it and lettering it, kind of helping out with some jokes and layout stuff, that takes 7 weeks.
Wow.
That's my full-time job. That's 40 hours a week. That's me just sitting down doing that. Comic scripts take me 3 to 4 days. And that's kind of, again, like full-time days where I sit down and just work on those. So I tend to work on artwork during the day, writing in the evenings or on the weekends, just to kind of like split it up.
Full-time job and then some. We have a request to check in on our illustrations, so can we?
All right, I still got to add all the
there we go.
All the black.
Janice, it's coming along.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Do you mind sharing your Deadpool work in progress? Look at, very nice.
Fun.
A knife. Very good. For both of you, well, Marcus, we'll start with you. What What made you decide to become an artist? I mean, you talk about the sacrifice and the commitment it takes. It's not a glamorous life, but what drew you to this?
It's a little glamorous.
Okay,
it can be.
Okay,
But the day-to-day life isn't all that glamorous.
We're on Facebook
Yeah.
Live.
That's true. That's
pretty
true.
glamorous.
And I am from the
guess so.
CBC, so there you go.
Honestly, I just loved drawing. I wasn't very good at much anything else as a kid. I wasn't very good at school. I wasn't very good at all
Had
this
no
stuff.
choice.
Yeah, exactly. And then my mom was always pushing me to just kind of decide in a direction. And I thought that I like drawing. I like comics, and I kind of just, for most of my career since the beginning, I kind of made the decision to go with it and then see how far I can go each time, and I haven't missed a step.
Question for Marcus. Your mother was pushing you to figure out a career.
Yep.
What did she say when you said comic book artist?
I didn't say that at first. I actually said animation, which isn't much better, but and she was okay with it as long as I had somewhere to go. Like she's a very practical woman, and I really appreciate that about her. And she always pushed me to just try to think about stuff before I did it, and that's all. Right?
It's funny, animation is like, when I graduated, I went to Sheridan College for illustration, and when I graduated, my parents would send me tons of like want ads basically for animation. I was like, no, I draw comics, I draw illustration. Never quite got it. They get it now, but
So what led you? Where did it start?
it's total accident. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm sure like Marcus, you know, we loved comics as a kid, and you know, I would draw my own little comics when I was younger. And when I went to Sheridan at the time, Sheridan was, I'm not going to say anti-comic, except, no, I am going to say it. Like the portfolio requirements to get in stated right on there, no comic art.
That's anti-comic, yeah.
No fantasy. I think that they've changed their feelings since then. But so I went to art school, and they kind of like made anyone in class who wanted to do comics, they steered them away from it. And so when I graduated, I tried to be an illustrator, and I worked again for the Post and the Globe. And in the evenings, I would just like, I would do my own little thing. Like I would just kind of work on my own little comics. And so for the first 10 years of doing comics, they were just self-published books that I would you know, tour North America with, and you know, you wouldn't make any money off of it, but you meet a lot of great people, and you kind of get back into the comic book world, and it was super fun. And so I never really thought of it as a career until Sex Criminals. So Matt Fraction, who was a writer at Marvel Comics, he wanted to do something fun and fresh and original and different, and we'd been friends for years online. He knew my work, and he liked my stuff, and I loved his stuff. And so we did this book called Sex Criminals. It's kind of a lark, like just for the two of us. And then it took off. It was like really crazy.
And it keeps going. I mean, do you have like a master plan for this series?
Yeah, we do. We're gonna go.
I should try and explain it for our audience without
Yeah.
ruining any
Yeah, that is
CRTC
true.
laws. It's a couple that stop time when they reach climax. How's
Yeah.
that? Is that
When they have sex.
sex? They are
When
called
they-
sex criminals.
Orgasm.
Okay, there you go.
Time stops. And they rob banks.
So it's
Is
like
that
those
okay for the
commercials.
That was,
CBC?
yeah, I think we're good.
I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those words.
I think our viewing
You
count
think
just
that was fine,
went up.
right?
That was, yeah.
You give me okay. You're sweating behind the camera right now. Yeah, so like clearly it's not a book that we thought would do well based on that premise, but it became my full-time job. Like
Yeah.
I worked at the National Post for a year while I was doing the book, and then I eventually had to quit to focus on it, and it kind of opened the doors to Marvel, now DC, and other companies, and yeah,
There you go.
weird.
We have just a couple minutes left. Another question from, it's almost 6 o'clock.
Oh, geez.
Another question from Aditya, who asks, how do you feel that your style of drawing is promoting viewer affection? Which elements do you add that cause this? Was this an element, an addition that you added, or is it unique and self-created?
I'm going to read that because
Yeah,
that made,
I think I got it.
You got it? I mean,
got
I
it.
think it's, how do you, what do you want to use?
Well,
All right.
the way I think about it is like, you mean how do you purposefully create a look that attracts people?
Right.
I think.
And do you think about that when you're drawing?
I
do you
just
actually think about the audience, or making them like you better?
I honestly, I kind of joke that art in general is a selfish industry. Not selfish industry, but a selfish career path, because all your life you draw things for yourself. You draw things that you like. You draw things that will appeal to you, and so I think that if I draw stuff for myself that I like, that I think look good, that I think then other people that might be like me will like it as well.
Yeah.
Because if you go into this industry trying to please everybody, it's never going to happen. So if you do stuff that you like, you think looks good, and I think other people will gravitate towards that and see it. Not everyone likes my work, nor do I expect them to, even though I would like them to. But it's just a reality, and the more you try to please other people, the less you're going to enjoy yourself, I think.
Style of drawing promoting viewer affection. I think, I don't know, I'm probably getting the question wrong, but in Sex Criminals with the artwork, I made a conscious choice when I started doing it that I would base the two main characters on people I know. So they would come over at the beginning of every issue, and I would take photos of them for reference.
Really?
Yeah. It's hard to tell in the artwork because it's very cartoony.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm not necessarily tracing the photos, but everybody has their own kind of characteristics and mannerisms.
Yeah.
And I find that when I'm drawing just from my head, they all have my mannerisms. And so having people come in and kind of model it when I'm at the layout stage really helps me to create distinct characters with mannerisms that I would not have considered.
Right.
At this point, I could do it without them probably because I know them so well, but it's a lot of fun having them come in. And so I think that creates kind of affection for the characters a bit more so because they feel more real because they are based on reality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap it up soon, but maybe we'll end by just asking you how you feel about like the audience, the people who are reading your books these days, in that it seems like there's always a struggle to find new readers, and I think for a long time, I think a lot of the readers were around my age, and I wonder...
Like 21, 22?
Maybe a little higher. And yet, the movies are so successful, so how do you feel about kind of the health of this industry that you're both recklessly devoting yourselves to?
I mean, I think it's wonderful to see how the industry has been going. I mean, like any industry, there are ups and downs and issues that people have, but I remember when I was a kid, there would only be like one shelf of comics. Now we have like tons of shelves of different types of comics all together, and you have so much choice now, and it's just growing because there's more and more people that are doing their creator-owned, like Chip's Sex Criminals, like you were saying. Do you think that it would have done well in the 90s with the comic industry the way it was? Like, I feel like it's been been great.
I think it would have done artificially well in the 90s because of the speculator boom. But now it's like there's so many avenues for getting new readers that it feels like, much like the golden age of television, this may be the golden age of comics. Image Comics, which is the company I work for, does Sex Criminals. They also do Walking Dead, and Walking Dead kind of changed the landscape of comics. Yeah. Because it was creator-owned, didn't necessarily feature superheroes, so it was something that felt different and unique. And companies like Image are really kind of pushing the idea of like fun, interesting comics that aren't necessarily super academic or kind of base. It's kind of that mid ground of like, oh, I enjoy TV and movies. Like, comics should kind of have that feeling as well, in terms of like subject matter. Like, as long as there are people creating stuff, there are going to be people enjoying it and people purchasing it. And you just have to make sure that the quality is there. Yeah.
And it seems, from my point of view, just at stores and cons that I go to, that the audience is more diverse than ever before.
I especially noticed it on Sex Criminals. I think there was a huge influx of new readers, kind of like early mid 2000s with manga and anime. A lot of young women definitely kind of came in through those books, because I noticed that with sex criminals at comic conventions, maybe 60-70% of the readers are women, and
Really?
they're young women. They're like 20, 30 range, and I think for some of them, sex criminals is their first comic, which is gratifying, and for some of them, it's just like they just wanted to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
They were either into Marvel stuff or manga when they were younger, and now they're back into comics and they're excited to find new stuff.
Quick question, and then I think we'll give you guys the last word. What do you think of the Nightwing movie? Is there a Nightwing movie? You're the Nightwing
they've
artist.
been talking about it.
Okay.
They've been talking about it. I don't know how far along have they, but you know.
What would your Nightwing movie be?
Oh man, that's a tough one, because are you gonna omit Batman, or are you gonna have it like Suicide Squad where he shows up for like 2 minutes? I'm not sure. I'd like to see a Nightwing movie. It's of just him. You know, no real mention of Batman, kind of like how Supergirl, the TV show, was started, where you kind of talk about Superman, but he's not in it. Because Nightwing's a great character, and speaking of diverse people interested in books, when I worked on Red Robin, which is another Robin from Batman, that was a entry comic for a lot of young women as well, because most of my fan base is actually probably 70-80% women.
Really?
Yeah, in their early to late 20s.
Why is that? Robin was male, right?
Yeah.
So was there a lot of prominent female characters in that comic? Or?
Well, I feel like all the Robins, especially all the
sexy.
Teen Titans,
I don't know.
Well, it's not even just sexy, but I think it's someone that they can kind of relate to. It's a younger hero, doing things that are just more regular day-to-day stuff and going through the struggles of their lives, and it has been probably a good gateway comic for manga. There's a lot of manga with obviously a lot of male characters. I don't think it matters necessarily.
I'm making an easy joke, but that's the point, in that if it's well written and drawn, then it can appeal to a wide range of readers.
Also, I think because my art is a little bit more along the lines of Japanese manga, that it did help facilitate that as well. Yeah.
One more question for you, and then we're done. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, listening. Well, why don't we show our finished product?
Yeah. Venom number 2.
There you go. Janice's name is Stevie. Janice's son's name is Stevie, if you can autograph that for him. I'm going to take pictures of this and share them on Twitter and Instagram so you can see the final result. Look at that. That's beautiful. Chip, is there a comic character that you would like to see on the big screen that hasn't made it there yet?
I would say Captain Marvel, but she's coming.
Which version, though?
The current Marvel.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
version.
no, okay. I was thinking
not
Ms.
the
Marvel.
no.
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one. I'd love to just love to give Batman another shake at it, you know? I think Batman needs to be on the screen just a little bit more.
He hasn't got his proper shot yet.
No,
right?
No.
Okay, I'm still waiting for the Plastic Man movie. That's my dying for that.
That would be great.
Okay, well, we could go on forever, but
wait. First of all, Plastic Man movie. The Mask was the Plastic Man movie.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Kind of.
that's
Anyways,
true. Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
And another thing.
No. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. This is Chip, this is Marcus, this is Silver Snail, and thank you, everybody. You'll be able to watch this again if you want to see it again, and I'll be tweeting out the final result of the pictures. Have a great night. Happy comic reading.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right, takes a couple seconds for the stream to die, so stay here, but that's great. Look at that.
Are we out? Are we out?
Well, maybe, sorta. They're gonna send me the... No, you're stuck here.